Congratulations on your purchase of the Surface 604 V-Rook. Today we're going to go through the unboxing and assembly of your new bike. Some of the tools we'll be using today are your multi-Allen key sets, individual Allen keys, or your tri-Allen key tool. You can use a torque set if you want it to be more detailed. We're also going to be using a pedal wrench. For unboxing, we're going to be using a pair of snips. We also need a bicycle pump, either a hand pump or a floor pump. If you don't have an actual pedal wrench, any regular 15mm wrench should work. First step is to fully charge your battery. The red light means it's charging. The green light means it's fully charged. First things you want to do is cut off your straps. From here, we'll want to open up the top of the box. Be careful of the staples. Inside the box, you're going to have an accessory kit. You want to put that aside. And you'll have some packaging material you'll want to remove first. Once you've removed your accessory box and some of the unpackaging, we can then open up the front of the box for easier removal of the bike. We're going to use a utility knife. And we're going to cut up the sides. Careful with the cutting. Same thing on the other side. Once you've got the box open, you can then remove the bike, lifting it out and securing it against the wall. We're then going to remove the rest of the packaging, cutting the ties. Careful not to snip any cables, cut any tubes. Once you've got your packaging off, we can then load it in your bike stand. Okay, at this point we're going to want to install the handlebars to the steer tube, so we'll secure the fork and remove the top cap. Make sure you're holding onto the bottom of the fork here because the fork can fall out. We'll remove the top cap and the spacer, which we won't need anymore. We're going to lightly grease the steer tube. So we're going to put a light film of grease on your steer tube. Securing the fork, you'll want to fit the handlebar and the stem onto the steer tube. Once you've got your stem on your steer tube, we're then going to find the Allen key in the top of the stem and secure it down. Just snug for now. We're going to go to the accessory box and we're going to pull out the front wheel quick release, which we'll put a light film of grease on, the axle and the threads of the quick release. At this point we're going to install your front wheel and we're going to install the quick release, which has been lightly greased through the axle, and then install the spring and the threaded nut on the other side. Make sure your springs are faced outwards with the flange facing to the outside. And then removing the spacer from the brake caliper. I'm going to line up the rotor and the quick release into the bike. Once you've got your wheel lined up in the fork dropouts, we're then going to tighten up your quick release and make sure it's nice and tight as you're closing it up. In your accessory kit, you're going to have your fender mounts. These will be mounted onto your fork legs. And same thing on the other fork leg. Before installing the fender, we're going to want to remove this bolt or nut from the bolt. And we'll be lining up the fender. And then And reinstalling your washer in the nut. The next step will be to line up the hardware with your fender mount and clamp. Once you've got your hardware ready to install, slide it a little higher on the fork leg to help with the range adjuster on the fender. And we're going to make the same hardware install on the other side. So when adjusting the fender, you can slide this bracket in and out for clearance on the tire. If there's any rubbing, it could be coming from your rotor, so we're then going to realign the caliper. We'll want to back off these bolts, spin the wheel, grab the brake, hold the brake while re-tightening the bolts, and this should help align. We're now going back to the accessory box to grab our pedals, and you have a left side pedal that has a left side thread and a right side pedal with a right-handed thread. Light bit of grease on the threads, and we're going to find the right pedal and install it by hand at first, and then we can use a backwards pedal to install with the fingers, and then tightening it up with a pedal wrench or a 15mm wrench. And then we're going to repeat the process on the opposite side with the left pedal. A little bit of grease. And then finalizing it with a pedal wrench or 15mm wrench. From the accessory kit, we're going to grab the headlight and undo the hardware. And then we're going to reinstall on the bracket on the front of the head tube, or front of the handlebar stem here. You'll have two keys. One will be for removal of the battery, and the other one you can store in a safe place. So now we can take our fully charged battery, make sure the tabs at the bottom line up into the holder, and lock it into place. At this point, we're going to take the bike out of the stand, put it on the ground for further adjustments. Once we've got the bike down, we're then going to adjust and line up your stem. You're going to line up your computer screen, your headlight with the front wheel. We're going to tighten down the top bolt to make sure the bearings are snug. Once everything's lined up, the side bolts on the stem are tightened to secure it in place. One on each side. Once your headlight's installed, make sure to line up your power and use the tabs and the arrows to get the cables together. To find the position that you prefer on your handlebars, you can roll them forward or back. We're just going to loosen off a couple bolts on the front plate of the stem. And we can find the desired spot and retighten. And we can also make adjustments to the shifter and the lever. Finding the right position and retightening. And we also have throttle position adjustment here. Backing off the bolt, finding the right spot, and then retightening. We can do a fore and aft or a tilt by the single bolt on the underside, loosening it off, finding the position, and then retightening. We can adjust the height with the quick release, open, find the desired height, and close it up nice and tight. If your quick release is too light, we can tighten up the opposite side, a couple spins, find the height again, make sure that's nice and tight. We want to make sure the crank bolts are tight on both sides. And we're also going to double check the kickstand bolts. Before taking the bike out, you'll want to top up your tire pressure if needed. Assembly complete. Your V-Rook is now ready to ride.